Israel is a small country in the Middle East, about the size of New Jersey, located on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea and bordered with Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The nation of Israel, with a population of more than 9 million people, most of them Jewish, has many important archaeological and religious sites considered sacred by the Jewish, Muslims, and Christians alike, and a complex history with periods of peace and conflict. Much of what scholars know about Israel's ancient history comes from the Hebrew Bible. According to the texts, Israel's origin can be traced back to Abraham, who is considered the father of both Judaism through his son Isaac and Islam through his son Ishmael. Abraham's descendants were thought to be enslaved by the Egyptians for hundreds of years before settling in Canaan, which is approximately the region of modern-day Israel. The word Israel comes from Abraham's grandson, Jacob, who was renamed Israel by the Hebrew God in the Bible. From 1517 to 1917, what is today Israel, along with much of the Middle East, was ruled by the Ottoman Empire. But World War I dramatically altered the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East. In 1917, at the height of the war, British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour submitted a letter of intent supporting the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, which is famously known as Balfour Declaration. In the late 19th and early 20th century, an organized religious and political movement known as Zionism emerged among Jewish. Zionists wanted to re-establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Massive number of Jewish immigrated to the ancient Holy Land and built settlements. Between 1882 and 1903, about 35,000 Jewish relocated to Palestine. Another 40,000 settled in the area between 1904 and 1914. Many Jewish living in Europe and elsewhere, fearing persecutions during the Nazi reign, found refuge in Palestine and embraced Zionism. After the Holocaust and World War II ended, members of the Zionist movement primarily focused on creating an independent Jewish state. Arabs in Palestine resisted the Zionism movement and tensions between the two groups continued. An Arab nationalist movement developed as a result. The Balfour Declaration and the British Mandate over Palestine were approved by the League of Nations in 1922. Arabs vehemently opposed the Balfour Declaration, concerned that a Jewish homeland would mean the subjugation of Arab Palestinians. The United Nations approved a plan to partition Palestine into a Jewish and Arab state in 1947, but the Arabs rejected it. In May 1948, Israel was officially declared an independent state, with David Ben-Gurion, the head of the Jewish Agency, as the Prime Minister. While this historic event seemed to be a victory for Jewish, it also marked the beginning of more violence with the Arabs. Israel is a small, narrow, and semi-arid country lying at the junction of Europe, Asia, and Africa on the southeastern coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. It is bordered by Lebanon in the north, Syria in the northeast, Jordan in the east, Egypt to the southwest, and the Mediterranean Sea in the west. Israel is only about 290 miles, that is 470 kilometers in length, and 85 miles, that is 135 kilometers across its widest point. Its total area is 10,840 square miles, that is 27,800 square kilometer, including all the areas under Palestinian self-government and the area within the boundaries and ceasefire lines. Israel can be crossed in about 90 minutes by car from the Mediterranean Sea in the west to the Dead Sea in the east, and in about 6 hours from Metula in the north to Eilat in the south. In Israel, mountains and plains, fertile land and deserts are often only minutes apart. Although approximately half of the land is semi-arid, the variety of features encompassed in Israel is that of an entire continent. Coastal plains, mountain ranges, hills, valleys, and desert, plus the Kinneret and the Jordan River combine to form the geographical features of the country. 4 geographical regions are created by 3 parallel strips running from north to south, and the large, mostly arid zone in the southern half of the country. The coastal plain running parallel to the Mediterranean Sea is home to more than half of Israel's population of 6.5 million people. It includes major urban centers, deep water harbors, most of the country's industry, and a large part of its agriculture and tourist facilities. The coastal plain consists of a sandy shoreline bordered by stretches of fertile farmland extending up to 25 miles, that is 40 kilometers inland. And in the north, expanses of sandy beach are occasionally punctuated by jagged chalk and sandstone cliffs. The Golan Heights and the hills of Galilee are in the northeast of Israel. Several mountains ranges run the length of the country. The Golan Heights were formed by the volcanic eruptions in the distant past, rising as steep basalt cliffs overlooking the Hula Valley. The limestone and the dolomite hills of Galilee ascends to heights ranging from 1600 to 4000 feet, that is 500 to 1200 meters above sea level. Relatively ample rainfall and small perennial streams keep the area green all year round. Agriculture, tourism-related enterprises, and light industry are activities engaged in by the residents of these areas. Separating the hills of Galilee from those of Samaria, the Jezreel Valley is cultivated by many cooperative communities like kibbutzim and moshavim. It is Israel's richest agricultural area. A mosaic of rocky hilltops and fertile valleys dotted with groves of age-old silver-green olive trees are created in the rolling hills of Samaria and Judea. First developed by farmers in ancient times, the terraced hillside blend into the natural landscape. Small urban centers and large villages house the main population of the areas. About half of Israel's land area is represented by the Negev. The Negev is sparsely inhabited, its population supported by an agricultural and industrial economy. The Negev becomes an arid zone further south, characterized by low sandstone hills and plains, abandoning with canyons and valleys, in which winter rains often produce flash floods. The region gives way to an area of bare craggy peaks, craters, and rock-strewn plateaus. Continuing southward, where the climate is drier and the mountains are higher. 3 erosive craters cut deeply into the Earth's crust here. The largest is about 5 miles, that is 8 km across, and 21 miles, 35 km long, displaying a broad range of colors and rock types at the tip of the Negev near Eilat on the Red Sea. Sharp pinnacles of grey and red granite are broken by dry cogs and sheer cliffs with colorful layers of sandstone glowing in the sunlight. Nestling between the hills of Galilee and the Golan Heights at 695 feet, that is 212 meters below sea level, is Israel's largest lake. Lake Kinneret, better known in English as the Sea of Galilee, is 5 miles, that is 8 km wide, and 13 miles, that is 21 km long, and serves as the country's main water reservoir. Some important historical and religious sites, as well as agricultural communities, fisheries, and tourist facilities lie along the shores of the lake. In the east of the country lie the Jordan Valley and the Arava. These areas form a part of the Syrian-African Rift, which split the Earth's crust millions of years ago. The southern portion is semi-arid, while the northern stretches are extremely fertile. This area's main resource of income are agriculture, fishing, light industry, and tourism. Flowing from north to south through the rift is the Jordan River, descending over 2,300 feet, that is 700 meters, in the course of its 186 miles, that is 300 kilometer route. The Jordan is fed by streams from Mount Hermon as it runs through the fertile Hula Valley into Lake Kinneret. It continues widening through the Jordan Valley before emptying into the Dead Sea. Normally quite narrow and shallow, the river swells during the winter rainy season. The Dead Sea lies at the southern end of the Jordan Valley. It is the lowest point on Earth at about 1,300 feet, that is 400 meters below sea level. Possessing the highest level of salinity and density in the world, its waters are rich in potash, magnesium and bromine, as well as in table and industrial salts. A very high rate of evaporation, that is 5 feet to 1.6 meters annually, and large-scale diversion projects undertaken by Israel and Jordan for their water needs has accelerated the Dead Sea's natural pace of recession in recent years. The result is a 75% reduction in the incoming flow of water, causing the surface level of the Dead Sea to drop some 35 feet, that is 10.6 meters, since 1960. Presently under consideration is a project to try to restore the Dead Sea to its natural dimension and level. This would be involving linking the Dead Sea with the Mediterranean Sea by means of a canal and pipe systems. Beginning south of the Dead Sea is the Arava, Israel's Shavana region. The Arava extends to the Gulf of Eilat, Israel's outlet to the Red Sea. It has become possible here to grow out of season fruit and vegetables, mainly for export, by adapting sophisticated farming techniques to climatic conditions. The average annual rainfall is less than 1 inch, that is 25 millimeter, and summer temperatures soar to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 40 degrees Celsius. Lying at the southern tip of the Arava is the subtropical Gulf of Eilat, noted for its deep blue waters, coral reefs, and exotic marine life. Israel is a parliamentary democracy consisting of legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Its institutions are the presidency, the Knesset, that is parliament, the government, cabinet, the judiciary, and the state comptroller. In 1980, the Knesset passed a law and decided Jerusalem as the unified capital of Israel. However, Tel Aviv is considered as the economic and technological center of the country. On December 6, 2017, US President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and stated that the American embassy would be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The system is based on the principle of separation of powers with checks and balances, in which the executive branch, the government, is subject to the confidence of the legislative branch, the Knesset, and the independence of the judiciary is guaranteed by law. The president, Nasi in Hebrew, bears the ancient title of the head of the Sanhedrin, the supreme legislative and judicial body of the Jewish people in the land of Israel in ancient times. He is the head of state, and his office symbolizes the unity of the state above and beyond party politics. Presidential duties, which are mostly ceremonial and formal, are defined by law. Amongst his formal functions are the opening of the first session of a new Knesset, accepting the credentials of foreign envoys, signing treaties and laws adopted by the Knesset, appointing judges, the governor of the Bank of Israel, and heads of Israel's diplomatic mission abroad, on the recommendation of the appropriate bodies, and pardoning prisoners and commuting sentences, on the advice of the Minister of Justice. In addition, the President performs public functions and informal talks, which include citizens' appeals, lending prestige to communal and social associations, and strengthening public actions such as the fight against road accidents. The President is elected by a simple majority of Knesset from among candidates nominated on the basis of their personal stature and contribution to the state. The President is elected for one term of 7 years. The Knesset is a parliament of the State of Israel. Its main function is to legislate. It took its name and fixed its membership at 120 from the Knesset Haggadah, that is Great Assembly, the representative Jewish body convened in Jerusalem by Ezra and Nehemiah in the 5th century BCE. A new Knesset begins to function after general elections, which determine its composition. In the first session, which is opened by the President, the Knesset members declare their allegiance, and the Speaker of the Knesset and his deputies are elected. The Knesset operates its plenary sessions and through its committees. In plenary sessions, general debates are conducted on government policy and activity, as well as on legislation. Debates are conducted in Hebrew, but members may speak Arabic, as both are official languages. Simultaneous translation is available. The Knesset is elected for a tenure of 4 years but may dissolve itself or be dissolved by the Prime Minister before the end of its term. Until a new Knesset is formally constituted following elections, full authority remains with the outgoing one. The government, that is Cabinet of Ministers, is the executive authority of the state, charged with administering internal and foreign affairs, including security matters. Its policy-making powers are very wide, and it is authorized to take action on any issue which is not delegated by law to another authority. Like the Knesset, the government usually serves for 4 years, but its tenure may be shortened if the Prime Minister is unable to continue in office due to death, resignation, or impeachment. When the government appoints one of its members who is a Knesset member as acting Prime Minister. In the case of a vote of no confidence, the government and the Prime Minister remain in their positions until a new government is formed. Forming the government, following consultations, the President presents one Knesset member with the responsibility of forming a government. To do so, the Knesset member has to present within 28 days of being given the responsibility of forming a government. A list of ministers for Knesset approval together with an outline of proposed government guidelines. Once approved, the ministers are responsible to the Prime Minister for the fulfillment of their duties and accountable for their actions to the Knesset. Most ministers are assigned a portfolio and head a ministry. Others serve without a portfolio but may be called upon to take responsibility for special projects. The Prime Minister may also serve as a minister with a specific portfolio. All the ministers must be Israeli citizens and residents of Israel. They need not be a Knesset member, but a majority usually are. Ministers with the approval of the Prime Minister and the government may appoint a deputy minister in their ministry. All deputy ministers must be Knesset members. For most of Israel's history, elections were dominated by the two major political parties, the center-left Labour Party and the center-right Likud Party of their various precursor parties. Labour, formed in 1968 by a merger of three other parties, was the more dominant of the two for the country's first 3 decades, ceding power for the first time in 1977 to Likud, itself a product of the 1973 merger of several right-wing parties. Following elections in March 2021, Likud was the largest party in the Knesset, followed by Yesh Atid, Shas, and Blue and White. Labour was the dominant force in Israeli politics, and the party of Israel's founding Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion had just 7 seats in the Knesset. Likud. Founded in 1973, Likud is currently Israel's largest political party and the standard-bearer of right-wing Israeli politics. The party's victory in the 1977 election and the subsequent elevation of party chief Menachem Begin to the premiership is considered a turning point in Israeli political history because it dethroned Labour after 3 decades in power. Historically, the party has been skeptical about the possibility of peace with the Palestinians and supportive of the Israeli settlement enterprises. Though Begin was the first Israeli Prime Minister to conclude a peace agreement with an Arab country when he signed a peace treaty with Egypt in 1979. The party has been historically liberal on economic matters, supporting the privatization of state-owned companies, low taxes, and free trade since 2005. Likud has been led by Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, who became Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister. Yesh Atid. Hebrew for There Is a Future, Yesh Atid was founded in 2012 by Yair Lapid, a former television journalist who sought to position the party as the voice of centrist, secular Israelis, emphasizing domestic challenges like education and housing. The party's early emphasis on drafting Haredi Orthodox Israelis into the army, historically they had been exempt from compulsory military service, has evolved into broader support for redefining the relationship between religion and state in the direction of greater religious pluralism. Shas. Shas is the largest of the Israeli religious parties and represent the interest of Sephardic and Mizrahi Jewish. The party was founded in 1984 by Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, the late Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel as a voice of community long marginalized by Israelis' Ashkenazi establishments. Its principal concerns were traditionally securing public financial support for its constituents and promoting Orthodox Judaism. The party has been flexible on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and been willing to sit in governing coalitions led by both Labour and Likud. Blue and White. Blue and White is a centrist coalition led by retired General Benny Gantz. Formed in advance of the April 2019 Knesset election, the party managed to win 35 seats in the Knesset, tied with Likud, and performed well in two subsequent elections, in September 2019 and March 2020, before breaking up. It currently holds 8 seats. Yamina. Yamina, it means to the right, is an alliance of several right-wing and religious parties that is helmed by Naftali Bennett, a staunch nationalist and supporter of the settlement enterprise. The party opposes the creation of a Palestinian state and supports the extension of Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank. Labour. Once the country's dominant political force, Labour, or its precursor parties, was the political home of every Israeli prime minister between 1948 and 1977. The party was the architect of the secular socialist society that defined Israel's early decades, but began a slow decline following the collapse of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process in the early 2000s, which Labour leader Yitzhak Rabin had championed. The party currently holds 7 seats in the Knesset. There are also other parties. These remaining parties currently seated in the Knesset are small with 6 or fewer seats, but since Israel is a parliamentary democracy that necessitates coalition building to achieve power, small parties can sometimes exercise outsized influence. Israel also has a number of additional parties that did not cross the 3.25% threshold necessary to win Knesset representation. It is not possible for us to cover all the sectors of this great nation. Hence, we will come up with a second video. We would request you to hold your horses till then. Please do like, comment, share and subscribe. Goodbye for now and have a great day ahead.